In April, police in Austin, Texas shot and killed Mike Ramos, a Black and Latino man who was pulling out of a parking space when an officer opened fire on his car. Video footage of the incident, released months later, shows him lifting up his shirt, showing he had no gun on him, and that officers, despite their claims, had little reason to be scared for their lives. And a search of the vehicle afterwards confirmed Ramos's own words. He did not have a gun. The release of the video sparked renewed protests over violence and racism from the Austin Police Department. But police met those protests with more violence, and they seriously injured at least 41 people, including a 16-year-old boy who was watching but not participating in the demonstration. Now, in August, all of that pain, all of that frustration, all of that agitation led to concrete change when the Austin City Council voted unanimously to cut its police department's budget by $150 million, or about 1/3, largely by removing certain duties from the purview of law enforcement. Now, Austin is known for its progressive politics, but the bold defunding measure certainly ignited debate throughout the state. Police unions and their tough on crime allies in elected office wasted no time mounting disinformation campaigns to fight back. First, they misleadingly portrayed the defunding measure as dangerous, as harmful to public safety. And second, they claimed that this measure and voters' responses to it hurt Democrats throughout Texas. And some more centrist Democrats actually even embraced this mischaracterization at the national level, saying that the party's lackluster performance in November was a direct result of the debate around defunding the police. Perhaps most notably was former President Barack Obama, who claimed that activists had, quote, lost a big audience by talking about defunding the police, which he dismissed as a snappy slogan. Now, this invited a defense from pro-defund lawmakers like Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and newly elected representatives Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush. Now, I want to take a second here to sort of acknowledge the controversy around this issue. Across the political spectrum, there are all different sorts of views on how to say defund the police, whether or not it's the right message to send, but ultimately this issue should not be controversial, because all people can agree that crisis should be responded to in ways that are effective, in the ways that are the most effective. And police are not the most effective responders when it comes to mental health crises, when it comes to substance use issues, when it comes to homelessness. And here's the thing. There are plenty of signs that Texans understand this, and that Texans were not turned off by Austin's decisions, and that defunding the police is not the political poison that its opponents have claimed. So let's start with Austin. None of the 10 city council members who voted to cut the police department ended up losing. 2 are headed into runoffs, but both led their opponents by at least 6 percentage points in the November 3rd election. And Councilmember Gregorio Casar, a progressive who led the charge on reallocating Austin's police's spending, won his re-election bid with almost 67% of the vote. And his opponent in that race was a tough on crime candidate who claimed that crime was out of control in Austin. Jose Garza also cruised to victory to become the next chief prosecutor in Travis County. And Garza has pledged to reduce incarceration in Austin, and he's pledged to hold the police accountable. And he's also spoken about the need to address crime by responding with increased availability in social services. And at the state level, Austin Police Union Vice President Justin Berry lost his bid to unseat a Democrat, incumbent Vicki Goodwin, who has expressed support for the Black Lives Matter movement and for reining in police abuse. So although Democrats overall didn't perform as well as they'd hoped in Texas, very few candidates outside of Austin campaigned on the defunding issue. And so, for example, there's very little evidence to suggest that defunding played much of a role in Democratic senator candidates Democratic Senate candidate MJ Hagar's 10-point loss to Senator John Cornyn. Hagar repeatedly clarified during the race that she didn't support defunding the police, despite Cornyn's disingenuous attempts to link her to the issue. So let's talk national level. At the national level, none of the Democrats who ran for Congress in swing districts supported defunding the police. But election and polling suggests that, if anything, the idea of defunding the police, the idea behind defunding the police, could have provided a boost to Democrats. According to exit polling, 50% of voters overall expressed support for the Black Lives Matter movement, and polling from Data for Progress and the Justice Collaborative Institute recently found that a majority of likely voters support transferring certain functions away from police and towards other officials who are better trained to do the job, like mental health professionals or first responders. And by the way, that's what's happening in Austin, for the record. And so around the country, we saw a number of promising voter-led initiatives to legalize marijuana, decriminalize drugs, create civilian oversight of police, and direct more county funding to social services instead of law enforcement. All measures, by the way, that would reduce reliance on law enforcement and free up funding for other services. Voters also elected prosecutors like George Gascon in Los Angeles, Monique Worrell in Orlando, Alonso Payne in Colorado, and just last weekend, Jason Williams in New Orleans, all of whom have spoken about the harms caused by out-of-control policing. And so, despite all of that evidence, Governor Abbott in Texas has doubled down on misleading claims about Austin's move to defund the police and its impact not only on the city, but on state politics more broadly. He's also advocated for harsher policies for people arrested at protests against police violence and racism, and threatened to have state law enforcement take control out of Austin's police force. But so far, it's been mostly bluster. Abbott's actions are just proof of the entrenchment of the status quo on this issue. American police have for decades had free rein to operate with minimal oversight, receiving larger and larger shares of city budgets each year as they continue to kill and abuse the very people that they're charged with protecting. And finally, law enforcement's ability to be able to operate with impunity is being challenged as advocates and elected officials champion efforts to reduce police budgets and to shift certain responsibilities away from the police departments and into agencies that are better, agencies and service providers who are better qualified to address, handle, and respond to them. And this is all happening even in the middle of a bad faith fear-mongering campaign around defunding the police. And this is all happening because voters in Austin and across Texas, they are not scared. They're not scared of taking these responsibilities away from police departments. And this should be a promising sign for the rest of the country as we continue to have this debate. That's all the time we have for today. My name is Alana Sivan, and you can join us tomorrow on The Appeal Live and follow us on The Appeal News and The Appeal on Facebook.